Hello again, folks. Please remember to subscribe. We've got some important stuff happening. The whistleblowers are coming out by the droves, and we're going to see things change at lightning fast speed, and you don't want to miss anything. So please hit that subscribe button. So with that, let's get started. We'll go to the first slide, and we'll start to break down the coming financial collapse and how we've been kept in a debt trap for all of our lives. So there's a steamroller coming, but here's the good news. It's not to steamroll us, it's to steamroll the system that has kept us in debt forever. And what's going to happen is it's going to come down, and we're going to get a new financial system. There's going to be a hiccup where there's got to be a financial collapse in order to take the money away from the global financial elite and give it back to us. But we're going to come back bigger and better than ever. It's like Trump said, he's going to make America great again. And then he said he's going to make America greater than ever. And so out of that, we're going to get what? We're going to get control out of the chaos. So that's what's coming. We're going to get control. Everything is going to turn out to where it falls on our side of the reset, not on the side of the bad guys. So let's go to the next slide. And what I want to do here is, as we're going to get into the coming weeks, into NESARA and into the depths of the election fraud, I want to lay some foundation, because I think people really need to understand that we're at the greatest tipping point in the history of the world. If the bad guys win, they're going to commit global genocide. That's all there is to it. But the good news is they're not going to. God appointed this time, and this is the time when all the whistleblowers will come out. This is when Kim Clement said there would be falls in the fall, and the falls are going to be caused by the truth coming out. The truth will set us free. So all we have to do is just pay attention, and we have to be willing to stand united and not let them divide us. A nation divided cannot be sustained, but one united cannot be brought down. No nation the size of America can be brought down from external forces. So our enemies are within, and it's imperative that we find out who they are and what they've done to us. So with that, let's go to the next slide. And I want to break down the financial system so that you can really understand what's been being done to us. So this is all part of communism. So look up there at that yellow part in the first column that says progressive tax. So let's break this down. They create wars, and the wars are designed intentionally to drive us into debt, nation after nation. So every nation in the world has been driven into war, basically declared bankruptcy, and was drawn into the central banking system, which initiated, according to Lenin, it's 90% of establishing a communist government. It creates a progressive tax. And here's what they tell us. Oh, we need to have a federal income tax, even though, remember, it's unconstitutional to put a tax on a man's labor. But it's on the beginning, it's only going to be 0.5%. We'll look at what it is now, folks. So basically, they bring that money in. And remember, the central banking system, the Federal Reserve, is a private institution. It's basically a cartel that takes the money from us and keeps us in slavery. So what happens is that 0.5% becomes 1%, becomes 10%, becomes 35%, and every dollar that's created creates more debt. So eventually we get to the point that the money that they're collecting from the Internal Revenue Service is not enough to pay that massive, ever-increasing national debt. So they have to create new taxes, and they do. And then for a while, that covers it. And then all of a sudden, that doesn't cover it. And then they have to raise the taxes on all those new taxes and create even more new taxes. And we finally get to the point that the debt burden is so great that the people's are they're up to their eyeballs in debt, and then the whole system collapses and comes down. So that's where we're at. That tax burden has got to the point that it is unsustainable. And now that's going to collapse. The fiat system is going to collapse. We're going to go to a new economic system based on commodities, and a system that's based on blockchain that can't be manipulated, and a system that basically restores and destroys the debt. So what we're going to find out is, how is America going to get out from under $37 trillion in debt and bring us back to a situation where we go back to the economic system we had when America became the greatest nation in the world? And what was that system? It was so simple. Trump says you'll be able to fill out your taxes on a postcard. It's because what? Because our whole tax system is going to be based on a 14% sales tax, and it's not even going to be on everything. It's going to exclude medicine, and it's going to exclude food and things that are essential. It's only going to be on non-essential items. So finally, we'll be in a fair tax system that takes care of the nation, doesn't leave us with this huge burden that we have now. So as we go through the rest of the slide presentation, you're going to find out how that's going to happen. But first, we have to find out about the system that we're under now. So basically, it is a system where every dollar that's printed creates a new debt obligation because of fractional reserve banking. Every dollar that's printed in turn prints a bond, and that bond is a debt obligation. And so every dollar that's printed takes us more and more and more debt until we get to the point that the pyramid of debt has to collapse. That's where we're at right now. And then another way that they bring us debt is practically everything we do is based on on credit, on deficit spending. So they take us into war, and they basically give us war bonds and so forth, and that's a debt. And they have unfunded entitlements. Look at the amount of money they're giving to the illegal immigrants that they come into here, and the social services and infrastructure that often are based on debt. So all of that creates new money. Every time a new bill is created, that creates a new debt obligation until it gets to the point that it's unsustainable. That's where we're at right now. We're in the Jubilee period, just like it's described in the Bible, where the economic system of the tyrants is going to come down, and where we're going to get an economic system based on God's economic system, and we're going to have breathing room. We're going to have more than breathing room. Every person in the world is going to have a reasonable amount of prosperity, and every nation is going to be able to be in a situation where they have prosperity, as Eisenhower, who said, is there any man, is there woman, any child who doesn't understand that the principal cause of war is drastic inequities between nations and between peoples? We're going to create a situation where they can't divide us individually, and they can't divide us nationally, they can't divide us ethnically. We're going to stand united, one nation, one people, one globe, united under our government and under our God. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll break this down a little better. Now, I need you to see how they create these boom bust cycles so that you can begin to believe that they can be broken. So here's what they do to us. Let's take 08. They increased the money supply. So there's lots of money out there. Then they lower the interest rate. So there's lots of money you can borrow cheaply. Then they target you at investment. So what was it in 08? It was the housing market. The bubble went up and up and up and up and up and up. And they told us everything's fine. There's nothing wrong. And then the next thing you know, in a 24-hour period, Lehman Brothers collapses, and we have the greatest financial collapse in our lifetime. And that's basically what they've done. And they get out. They always get out first and leave us holding the cards, and we're the ones who pay the debt that is accrued as a result of the bubble that they've driven us into and the hardship that they've done. They've caused people to lose their jobs. They caused people to lose their houses. They caused people to lose their life savings. And where does that money go? Into their pockets, from your pocket into their pockets. Now we need to understand how they trigger that boom cycle. It's just the opposite of how they create the bubble. So what they do is they trigger a collapse. And how do they do it? They dry up credit. Remember, we said before, the whole economy runs on credit. So they basically dry up the credit, and that collapses everything. And when that happens, that's when they come in and take your house, take your bank account, take everything that you have, and leave you holding the bag. And they say, we don't have enough money in the FDIC to cover it. So American people are going to have to, taxpayers are going to have to bail the banks out. That's the cycle we've been under, folks. That's the system of slavery, the debt slavery that we have lived under our entire lives. It's all about to change. Let's go to the next slide. You really need to understand how all this works so that you can see as we go forward and we get our freedom back, we don't want to fall back into this again. So basically, I'm going to lay out what they did to you on the housing collapse in 08. They increased the money supply, as we said. They lowered the interest rates. You could buy a house for the first time in the history of the world with no money, zero money down, and no income verification. Now, does that sound a little suspicious? And then, since it was not a conventional loan, which requires 20% down, you didn't get a regular 30-year fixed rate loan. You got a 3-year ARM. And so that was the trigger that was intentionally designed to collapse the housing market. They knew when those loans are going to go into default, and they know that basically the banks, depending on the state you're in, once they default, it's going to take a year to 2 years before they do foreclosure. So they had their time bomb set. Everything was clicking, and they knew exactly when that collapse was going to occur. So when they told you everything was perfect, they were lying through their teeth. They knew Lehman Brothers was the canary in the coal mine, and they knew it was about to pop, and they lied to you and lied to you and lied to you. Well, they're doing something like that again. Let's go to the next slide. So we start this story of collapse of the Great Reset that was planned with COVID, because what they did is they locked us down, and they printed more money than they had printed in the last 100 years in every nation in the world. Got so much debt that it was unsustainable, and the big governments of the world are all in near economic collapse. America's in trouble, China's in trouble, Russia's in China, India's in trouble. But the one to watch is Japan. Japan is the canary in the coal mine. Their debt to GDP ratio is over 200%. So when you see China, when you see Japan fall, get ready. If it hasn't already fallen, that's the signal that says the global financial collapse is underway. But it's got to happen, because it allows us to create the new system, the system that God has ordained to break the chains of slavery that the world is under. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to dig down, and I'm going to expose the banking system. And Joseph Stamp was the head of the English bank in the 1900s. And he basically said, if you want to continue to be slaves, then continue to let the central banking system create money out of thin air and charge you interest rates for it. That's what they have created. And I'm going to break it down for you. COVID, that's where this whole cycle really started to fall apart, because it created an unmanageable debt. Right now, because of COVID, the United States of America is sitting at $37 trillion. $12 trillion of it is to be refinanced this year. If Trump can't get the interest rates down, which I'm confident he will, it will be such a severe occurrence that it will basically cause America to default and have a catastrophic economic collapse that would take us decades to come out of. But instead, he's going to get that interest rate lowered. He's going to force the Fed to do what he wants to do, and we will come out of this in a manner of weeks or months. There'll be a collapse, there must be, but it'll be a quick rebound, and it'll go higher than it's ever been. The next bullet point is something I don't think most people want. A 0% interest rate made that debt burden possible, so we can carry that $37 trillion debt at 0% interest. But it's not 0% anymore. It's gone up and up because the Fed intentionally raised the interest rate multiple times in order to create a liquidity problem, so they could force the collapse that they wanted to usher in their version of the reset. And the rate hikes caused what? They caused a tightening of the credit, so they dry up the credit, and with that they force withdrawals, and that forces bank failures. And that's the cycle that they initiated in 2019 with COVID. That's what is leading to this financial collapse that absolutely is orchestrated with intent and ill will. But Donald Trump is going to see to it that it reverses, and that we come out ahead, and we get a new financial system that's based on God's economic system, not the debt trap that the global financial elite created. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to dig down deeper, because I think it's very important that the American people understand the debt system that we're in. So most people don't know the minute you walk to a bank and you give them your money, it's no longer your money. Basically, you had to sign some documents, and it says that money is now the property of the bank. And then when we had the collapse, they passed the Dodd-Frank bill, and it said there will no longer be bailouts. So bailouts are what? Bailouts are when they have a series of banks that collapse and they don't have enough money in the FDIC to pay it. So we, the American taxpayer, get the privilege of bailing out the corrupt bankers who intentionally caused the financial collapse. And then they came to us and said, well, there's not going to be bail-ins. And most people don't even know what bail-ins are. You have to go back almost 20 years to Greece to find an example. So Greece was a socialist economy, and you had 6 weeks of vacation and maternity leave and every kind of entitlement you can imagine, and they were in real trouble. And so they did bail-ins. And so what is a bail-in? The banks guarantee you, they have said, we have an insurance policy that says that if the banks go under, that you'll still get your money. Well, that didn't work, and it didn't work in 08, and it's not going to work in the future. So what do? So here in the United States, the limit that's set by the FDIC for covered funds is $250,000. But you need to know that the very people who own the central banking system are the same criminals that own the FDIC. And you need to know that in 08, they only had 1% of money on deposit for the reserves that they were covering. And so basically, we only had a collapse of $700 billion, not trillions, 700 billion. And the feds and the FDIC said, we don't have the money. And so what happened? We got held, we got bagged, we got to bail them out. But now they're saying something even worse. They're saying there are going to be bail-ins. And what that means is if there's a big enough collapse, it means that they'll cover you. Let's say you got $500,000 in the bank. They'll cover you, if they can, up to $250,000. And everything after that, they confiscate from you. So what I'm wanting you to see is the entire system is rigged to make the global financial elite wealthier and wealthier and wealthier and drive us deeper and deeper into debt slavery. But all of that is going to be destroyed, and we're going to get a completely new economic system. And it's very simple. It's not complicated like the stuff that I'm showing you now. It was what made us great in the first place. We came here because we wanted to have land ownership. We came here because we didn't want to be in a central bank, and we set up an economic system. Now, I was, just give you a little credibility, I was a real estate broker for 12 years, even had my own small real estate firm before I lost it in 08. And basically what they do is they create a debt trap for us around real estate and around money and around everything else. And so what they did in 08 is they collapsed the system, and they took massive, massive numbers of homes from millions of Americans. And I was involved in selling the houses that were short sales and the houses that were foreclosed on. And what did I have to do? I had to take the offer that I got to who? To Fannie and Freddie, government institutions, and said, would you accept this offer? So they make money as the system went up, and the houses got worth more and more and more and more. Then they bailed out, and then they get to take basically advantage of us as those houses are foreclosed upon, and they take them back, because here's what happens. So let's say you got behind on your income, on your property tax, and you owe $5,000, and you've lost your job and you can't pay it. Now, a fair and equitable situation might be to say, okay, we're going to force you to sell your house, but all we're going to take is the $5,000 that you owe us. But no, that's not what they did. What they do is they take your house, period. So a $500,000 house with a $5,000 debt obligation, they take it all, every bit of it. I mean, can you spell bankster, gangsters? Can you sell criminals? Can you say mafia? This is the system that we're under. This is the system that we're going to get out from under. So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to see the quintessential thing that has to happen to allow this financial reset to happen. The nations of the world have to have sovereignty. They have to be able to have sovereign currencies. They have to be able to have access to a trading system that is fair and equitable, which is what Trump is trying to set up. So with that in mind, here's what must happen. We have to deglobalize. And so we look to China to see that. So basically, the manufacturing that has gone to China for the last 70 years is leaving at lightning fast speed, causing China to have a catastrophic economic collapse. And on the other side of the coin, in 1945, in the midst of chaos following World War II, America, at a convention called the Bretton Woods Convention, basically was given the title of the world's reserve currency, but we abuse that. And so now the nations of the world are saying we have to get out from under control of the dollar by the United States. So we have to de-dollarize. So deglobalization and de-dollarization have to happen. And what that does is it gives us back control of the logistics system, and it gives us a fair and equitable economic system. And here's basically what it comes down to it. It will allow a stable commodity-based economic system that is resistant listen to this, to inflation, deflation, boom bust cycles, and currency manipulation. In other words, the chains of debt slavery are broken. And this is the impetus that starts that reversal. Let's go to the next slide, if you would. And this is way Donald Trump is basically going to save America from a hard collapse. So when the elite were in control in 1929, it took 12 years for the stock market to recover. And 3 years deep into it, the stocks had fallen 90% and America basically declared bankruptcy. The 08 collapse took, I think it was something like 12 years to recover, but this collapse is going to recover almost instantaneously because they're not going to be in control. The global financial elite will have lost their power, and the white hats will basically be orchestrating this collapse in order to take the money from them and set up the new economic system. And how Trump is going to come out ahead and bring America to where it's great again and even greater than it was he is going to back our currency by gold, and then he is going to make us the crypto capital of the world, because we're going into a digital revolution where the entire economic system is going to be based on cryptocurrencies. And so if Trump says you can come to America and you can pay no tariffs, you can have some of the cheapest taxes in the world, and we will be the crypto capital of the world, and I don't know if he'll get this through, but he's also trying to get pushed through that if you buy crypto from an American company, you will not pay any capital gains on it. So basically, if we are backed by gold, and if we are the crypto capital of the world, we will emerge from this reset, not the sole reserve currency of the world, but still the principal reserve currency. And it's because of the marriage of gold and cryptocurrency, particular XRP, and us being the crypto capital of the world. That's what Trump's is set up to save the economy of the United States and bring us out of the financial trough that we're in with $37 trillion, so that America can bring out a treasure trove of some 6,000 patents that have been suppressed, and then America can do what it has done before. It can basically restore its financial situation, basically rebuild its manufacturing, and once they become the manufacturing epicenter of the world, and then a restored America can help all of the rest of the nations of the world to be restored as well. Excuse me, I just hiccuped. Let's go to the next slide. Excuse me. And this is basically what he's doing. I think I kind of covered this in the last one. So he's playing 5G chess, and he's got all the coins. So just read that slide on your own, because I discussed it a minute ago. Let's go to the next slide, if you would. And I want to play this video. It's 2 minutes long, and this man is going to give you some unbelievable information so that you can understand how to position yourself after the collapse. After we take the money from the financial elite, then we're going to have to become educated in what the new system was all about. And this man is going to give you some really good insights in just a matter of 2 minutes. So if you play that slide, please, that clip, please.
Holy smokes. Do you understand what's about to happen? We are standing at the doorway of the single largest wealth transfer humanity has ever seen. Forget the internet boom, forget social media, forget even Bitcoin's first run-up. What Ripple and XRP are building is the very foundation of a new global financial system, a system where value moves as easily as information does today. Picture this. Trillions of dollars locked and parked in dusty corners of outdated financial rails, suddenly unlocked, moving seamlessly, instantly, 24/7. You're either positioned to benefit from this shift, or you're going to be left staring at the rearview mirror. This is not financial advice. Now, let's get into it. When people talk about XRP going to $100, $500, or even higher, the first thing that the skeptics scream is, but the market cap would be bigger than Apple, bigger than Microsoft, bigger than Bitcoin. That line has been parroted for years by people who fundamentally do not understand how liquidity functions in a utility-driven ecosystem. Market cap in crypto isn't a ceiling. It's not a hard stop. It's a mirror, a reflection of how much money is flowing through the system at any given time. And XRP isn't like Bitcoin, sitting still, waiting for someone else to buy it higher. XRP is a bridge. It's the pipe that all the other pipes connect to. Dollars, euros, yen, tokenized treasuries, real estate, stablecoins, carbon credits, healthcare assets. Every single one of them will require liquidity. And that liquidity comes from XRP. And before we keep diving deeper, let me just say this. In the pinned comment below, I've left something that I honestly wish I had.
That's good. Let's go on. All right, so I'm going to add some things to this. So that's basically telling you something that God told me 3 years ago. And I'm certainly not an expert, but I listened to God. God woke me up one morning at 5 o'clock. That's our routine. And he told me, I'm going to give you the opportunity to invest in what's going to become the new world's reserve currency. This man was telling you about it. That is going to be XRP. That's the rails for the future. And eventually he told you that Bitcoin just sits there and it's just waiting for another person to come along and buy it at a higher price. So over the period of time, my prediction is that Bitcoin is going to rise and rise and rise until it reaches a point that it can't go any higher, and then it's going to have a catastrophic collapse. So the other thing that's going to happen is it's going to take time, but he was talking about tokenizing literally everything and using XRP as the vehicle to transfer wealth, break everything down to the lowest possible denominator and transfer it for fractions of a penny in 3 to 6 seconds. That's what's coming. And so if you really understand that, once we get fully implemented on the new economic system with the rails being XRP, it's going to sunset the old system with this SWIFT. So what God told me is that never in the history of the world up until now has there been a situation where private citizens like you and I had an opportunity to invest in the greatest wealth transfer the world has ever seen in basically what was going to become the new world's reserve currency. So I encourage you, go out and do your own homework and see if what I'm telling you sounds like it's true. I've done my homework and I've been investing in XRP for over 3 years now. Now there's something else coming that goes even beyond what this man was talking about. Trump has just announced the greatest land sale in the history of the world. And I have known for years what the strategy was. Why do you think America has been buying natural gas and oil and all kinds of things from other countries for decades? All the necessities of life. And why have we set back and bought natural resources from other countries? Because God, in his wisdom, was saving America so that when we needed it, we would have a cornucopia to reach into. We would have the greatest oil reserves in the world and all the minerals that we need. So Donald Trump has recently announced that he is going to open up federal lands and he is going to basically create a sale that he believes will create $158 trillion. So with the national debt of 37 trillion, we will pay off our national debt. And I know that sounds impossible, but I just encourage you, things are coming at lightning fast speed now. We're going to get the truth about the election fraud and the theft, and we're going to basically be able to clean the swamp, get rid of the corporatocracy, which is the banks, the corporations, and the politicians, and start over again with a new equitable system. And we'll have no debt. So we'll be able to run this country on a 14% sales tax that is basically only on essential items. You won't be taxed on medicine, and you won't be taxed on food, and you won't be taxed on purchases of things that are used that have already had taxes paid on them before. Now, on this slide, if you bring that up full screen so I can read it, this basically is telling you about NESARA. And Donald Trump has now got an army of some 200 generals helping him initiate this. I call them the White Hats. But it was first attempted by Kennedy. And the truth is finally coming out that Kennedy basically printed silver certificates, which effectively was going to sunset the Federal Reserve System and give us a fair and equitable economic system. He was also coming against the military industrial complex because he wasn't going to send more troops into Vietnam, and he was coming against our national security agencies, in essence, the CIA, because he knew that they were not working on behalf of the people of America. So this is a high level explanation of what Nassari is. But in the coming weeks, I'm going to break down the financial collapse so that you can understand how it's going to be restored. And I'm going to dig deep into Nassara. So just at the high level, this is just to get you ready so that when we dig deep into this, you'll understand it. All of this is just to set the table for your understanding. So the Federal Reserve and the IRS are going to be disbanded. They're unconstitutional and they're illegal. Gold commodity-backed currency will be God's system, and that's what we were on when we were first founded as a nation. This is the third central bank that's been inflicted on us, and it's going to be taken away. We've done it before. We'll do it again, and our illegal debt is going to be forgiven. Between the combination of the new economic system we're going to and the tapping into our cornucopia of natural resources and rebuilding our factory base and drastically increasing our GDP, America will have no debt, and we will function on a simple sales tax, which is supposed to be 14%. And like Trump said, you'll fill your taxes out on a postcard and taxed on new non-essential items only. So basically, one of the other things that's going to happen, I'm old enough to be interested in this, but Social Security is going to be raised so that we can have retirees who have dignity and are not going to have to worry about whether they can buy their medicine or pay their food or buy their groceries. So basically, that's coming along, and increased basically, to get into this, every nation in the world has to agree to a stand down of the military. So all of this is happening. I couldn't really talk about this before because it didn't seem credible. But now let's look at what Trump is doing. He's basically negotiated peace agreements between 7 nations right now, and he's involved in Russia and Ukraine. He's involved in Israel and Iran. And look at what's happening in Venezuela. All of these entities have to be brought to where the wars are ended. So he now has declared a type of a war against the cartels and declared the cartels in Central America and South America and in Mexico all to be terrorist organizations. And he's got a fleet of ships setting off of the shore of Venezuela, basically creating an embargo, taking their drug money and putting pressure on them for their oil resources as well. So he's bringing all these nations and all these conflicts to heal so that we can do what is on this slide, that we can have a stand down of all military aggression in the world. Because it was Eisenhower who said, is there any man, any woman, any child that doesn't understand that the principal cause of war is drastic inequity between nations and peoples? And before he left office the first time, he basically got the Chevron deal orchestrated, which is going to give us some 6,000 patents. And now what has he done? He put his tariffs in place, and Xi Jinping said the world's nations are going to turn against you, Donald Trump. No, they came to him and said one after another, we will negotiate with you, Donald Trump, and they are. And so what is coming out of that? It's coming out of it that now the people of the world, the nations of the world, the leaders of the world understand that the money is no longer flowing to China, that China is now in the face of a significant economic collapse. And in just a few months, $10 trillion have been committed to the U.S. to build factories, which will put us back in the position of being the number one manufacturing entity in the world. And that will drastically increase our GDP, and that will basically restore us. And with that money that he's going to get, that's going to come from that sale of all that land, 150 some trillion dollars, America will be debt free, and we will have restored economy. We will be a superpower again. We'll be a leader of the world again, and we'll help all the rest of the nations of the world. So don't misunderstand this. People think that they're lining up behind China and behind BRICS. No, the people of the world want America to come out of this stronger than ever, because they understand only a free America, an America that is basically willing to stop the hoarding and share with the rest of the world, can help bring the nations of the world to a period where we can have peace and we can have prosperity. Let's go to the next slide, if you would. And this is what comes out of this. Voltaire said that eventually, ultimately, that all paper currencies, all fiat currencies backed by nothing, results back to their real value, which is zero. So when all this comes down, they have controlled us, and it will no longer be possible. They will not be able to inflate our currency, to deflate it, to cause wage suppression, to cause stock market manipulations. And I should stop here and I should say that I'm not a financial analyst, but I would be looking hard at my stock market portfolio, because we're about to find out that the corporations have been taken over by the bad guys, and that the media has been taken over, and that the banks have been taken over, and the politicians have been taken over. And as that happens, there is going to be a catastrophic, in my opinion, collapse of the stock market. And then we're going to have boom bust cycles that are not going to be possible anymore, because they can't inflate and can't deflate. And that's going to lead us to prosperity that we can't even imagine. And so that's what's coming to America. That's what's coming to the world. The global conflicts are going to end, and we're going to have peace and prosperity. And it's based on a new economic system. When I had my death experience in 1968, God showed this system to me, but he said, we can't have it now because it is very sophisticated and we do not have the technology to implement it. But now with quantum financials, with XRP, with blockchain, with crypto, we have the ability to create a system that can fractionalize every commodity in the world. It can fractionalize gold and silver and real estate and everything, and give us a very sophisticated economic system that cannot be controlled, it cannot be manipulated, and will absolutely usher in peace and prosperity to the world. Let's go to the next slide. And this is what it's all about. God told me that he would give me the ability, because the amount of information that he would have me have to learn would give me the ability to always view things from the 60,000 foot view, looking down so I can see through the forest and the trees. And all that has to happen to bring this about is the following. We have to get control of our natural resources. No more hoarding. We have to control manufacturing. It's coming back to America. We'll be the manufacturing superpower of the world again. We have to have control of trade, because trade converts into money, and who controls money controls the world. And that's half of the equation. But the other half is why God chose America in the first place, and why he's going to choose it to lead the world in a period of peace and prosperity again, because he's going to restore our family, our religion, our education, our media, our entertainment, our political system, our economic system, and our military system. What is that? That are the 8 spheres of influence that are used to control us with money. So money is going to be no longer able to be a control mechanism, and we will get back both our money, our monetary system, and we will get back the things that made America great. Belief in all those systems, in our family, and in God, and in values that basically make the world a far, far better place to live. So all of this is coming. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to wrap it up. So as I say every time, we are now at the tipping point. We're at the point where all this stuff sounded like, and they can make us believe for years, it was conspiracy theory, that people like me were whack jobs. But now you can see it. You can see the cartels being attacked. You can see the ships off the shore of Venezuela. You can see the nuclear plants in Iran being bombed. You can see 7 nations being brought to heel in terms of war. You can see the financial system getting ready to reset. But what it requires to do this is, remember, it's not just economics. It's about having a nation, a world that turns itself to God, that surrenders a knee, that ushers in the greatest revival the world has ever seen. And we have the opportunity to have a spiritual enlightenment that brings peace and prosperity to the world. But you need to know what's going on. This book was ordained to me basically by God. Not one chapter was written until he came to me and told me what I needed to say in it. So you need to buy this book, because now is the time when we need an army of people to stand up and be informed. This book tells you what made America great, how we lost it, how we're going to get it back, and most importantly, through the knowledge that you'll gain, we'll know how to keep it. So with that, I urge you to come back next week, and we're going to go through some of the most amazing stuff in the next 4 to 6 weeks, because now finally We're at a position where they're no longer going to be able to tell us you're conspiracy theorists, you're kooks. There's enough truth that's coming out, enough exposure, enough whistleblowers. We're going to find out that the elections have been stolen, the financial system is corrupt, and that the wars have been inflicted on us through false flag events. And finally, the people are going to understand who our real enemies are, and we're going to understand that the people that we've been told are our enemies are not. The other nations of the world, the people of those nations are not our enemy. It's not black against white. It's not white against Hispanic. It's not conservatives against liberals. It's just God's people put here on this earth to learn to live together in brotherly love. We need to have a moral foundation and an economic foundation, and that's what God is going to deliver. So we're about to see what Kim Clement promised us. We're going to see the disclosures that are coming out right now, terminating in massive collapse of banks and corporations and political swamp people that are going to be taken out of power. And we're going to see a new economic system that ushers in an unparalleled period of peace and prosperity. So the best is yet to come. And all those things that they told you are conspiracy theory are about to be shown to you, that they are just the long-term plan that God always had planned. We have to always, we're so dumb, just like the Israelites, we have to go through hardships in order that finally we will bend our knee and surrender, and we can understand this one most important thing of all, and it's this. We have to learn the lesson, all the people of the world, that to harm another is to harm ourselves. And when we come to that realization, there will be peace and prosperity and equity among all the nations and all the people of the world. So come back next week. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button, because you don't want to miss what's happening, because finally the truth is going to come pouring out every week, week after week after week, and you're going to be able to finally say, I believe it, I see it, it's happening, it's real. And then we're going to be asked to surrender to God. So please tune back in next week, and don't forget to push that subscribe button.